How's it going, everybody? Good morning, because it is morning time. It's another morning interview because I love these. Get the day started. But welcome to the 2 Degrees podcast brought to you by the Play On Foundation. And today we got a lovely guest for you. I had the pleasure of working with him back in the day on stage, which was fascinating because we were both new to that facet of entertainment. And since then, he has decided to take off into the music realm, and I'm so excited to learn more about that journey while reminiscing on the past. But everybody, I know him as Colin Petierre, but you might know him better as Nilo. Everybody, welcome,
What's
Nilo. What's
up?
going on? How
Thank you so
you
much, bro.
been?
How you been, bro?
Man, life has definitely taken two very different paths since
Absolutely.
since the stage. But no, everything's been well on my side. Currently in San Diego, and just enjoying the holidays here. What's going on with
Beautiful,
you? Where
beautiful
are you
weather
at?
down there, I'm assuming. Over here,
Yeah,
it looks
yeah.
like
You're
a
in.
literal like blizzard. Like we just woke up and it's the most snow I've seen in a couple days. So I bet San Diego is probably way more chill in terms of
You're
like
still in
snow and shit.
Toronto?
Yes, yeah. I'm in Mississauga right now, but
Nice.
always in Toronto, in and around Toronto.
Fair, 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 fair. Were you born and raised in Saga?
Yeah, yeah. So I actually I was born in North York area and I was there for a bit, but then I moved with my mom to Mississauga when I was like really young and was pretty much raised here all my life until like now
Yeah.
that I'm like kind of going back and forth in and around, but I'm always around like the GTA area. Other than that, I haven't lived
Mm.
anywhere else, but Sauga's been my spot.
Nice, fun, awesome. Well, for this show, you are the youngest artist I've brought on so far.
Damn, I'm honored.
I'm curious to know, starting starting
Hopefully I don't
from
talk too much shit.
nah, but like when did the artist bug enter your brain?
Honestly, it was probably around the same time that we worked together. In that around that
Oh
time,
wow,
when was that? Probably like 2016, 2017. I think 2017 was around the
around
time
there, yeah.
that we did the Fringe Festival show and with Warren. And at that same time, I was working. The
Mm,
way I actually like was introduced to Warren was through one of the shows and productions that we had worked on prior to that backstage. And I definitely started getting into music around the same time that I was on set for backstage. I took an interest and a liking to uh, songwriting, and just because I was starting out and I had no other like way to outsource or any networks within the music industry, I just decided to like teach
mm,
myself and learn how to produce music myself. And then from there, I was working with one of my mentors from Mississauga, Corey. He's like first person to like crack all the stuff like the Ableton stuff on my stuff. So I had all this like random torrented like plugins and
that's funny.
software just so I could learn how to produce, and then eventually got the real deal. But I started out around then, and I remember just being on set or being on any production. Like whenever I had a chance, I would be cooking up in my trailer or cooking up in the holding and just like doing my
Mm,
thing. So it definitely started around that time when we were still when acting was still like the main I guess the main priority in my life and
yeah.
the main like passion.
Now, how did you get into acting? What was that adventure like?
Honestly, a lot of that had to do with my dance background. So because I was a dancer, um, I was able to land some opportunities and gigs with certain projects and certain like commercial work. And from there, I expressed to my mom how much I wanted to be an actor and how much I wanted to keep auditioning and doing all the fun stuff. And so I think around um, I was I signed with my first agent when I was around 11. And before that, I was just
Mm,
doing non-union work. And the non-union work started when I was around 9. So I had a few years of 2 years of doing some non-union work and dancing, and then from there, I landed my first my my first and only agent in my representation. So shout out AMI.
Oh, that's so funny. Who at AMI? Because I know another actor who was with them at first too.
Yeah,
Was it
yeah.
Sherry?
I'm with Shari. Yeah, yeah. Shari Quallenberg
Ah,
with
shout out
AMI.
Sherry.
Yeah. So she's been the
Nice, that's so
OG
funny.
since day one.
Yeah, no, she's definitely like helped out a lot of Toronto artists, especially getting their foot in the door and giving them like that real
Absolutely. Yeah,
stronghold
she's
of a
just super
foundation for
chill,
the
like
for
such
this
a genuine
career.
person and really cares
Yeah,
about her talent. And I remember even
that's dope.
having a meeting with her to let her know, I'm like, hey, I may be transitioning and pivoting into music. And so my time and my priority is going to be focused on just creating music and releasing as an artist. And when we had that, she was like, you know what? As long as you got me tickets to your shows, I'm good. And we'll keep sending you on auditions. We'll keep doing this and whatever you decide that you want to do, I'm here for it. So I'm like, okay, perfect. Like she's like literally the best.
That's dope. So are you still auditioning now then?
Here and there, I haven't auditioned in a
Yeah.
while, just because
Okay.
it's kind of been on my side, just been like, okay, like now that I'm actually recently independent in general. So
Yeah.
I've had a switch in management as well as the label I was working with, and so now I'm like
Mm,
completely independent for the past few months. And so with
nice.
this newfound kind of process that I'm finding myself stumbling into in a way, um, it's definitely been way different. And so my priorities and like my focus has definitely been on like, okay, um, what does the distribution look like now? How am I going to release music as an independent artist? What's going to gain traction? And how do I make this worthwhile? A lot of answers that I didn't have before, I didn't need to have before, are kind of like being asked now. So I
Mm,
definitely have been in like this new state of jumping into the water and just figuring out what the heck I'm doing and which way is up. So
yeah,
that's
yeah,
been the
yeah.
new thing. But I honestly, I've been talking to a lot of people about it, like my partner about it, and my parents, and I'm like, I definitely want to get back into acting. I just want to make sure that when I do it, I'm like doing it justice. So I'm not just jumping
Mm,
into the craft again and being like, oh, like this is I'm auditioning, yeah, but like I want to actually be able to like
yeah.
um dedicate my time to it and like get myself back into training and like figure out like, okay,
Nice.
just take things seriously. Now like I'm 22 years old now,
Yeah,
so I'm
yeah,
like, I gotta take everything I do very like seriously, at the same time as like have fun with it.
yeah,
But definitely like excited about what can be done in 2022.
yeah. No, that's exciting, man. So in so when you did Next Step as well, was that
Yes.
just all dance and then backstage was dance as well as like other musical aspects?
Yeah, so essentially the next step was strictly dance. It highlighted on a dance studio itself. And I was in a few episodes in season 3 and season 4 when I was around 13. And mainly it was dancing, but there was like a lot of like almost the way that it worked, it was kind of like an improvised script. So it was you would
Hmm,
essentially get the um the foundation of the scene and what's going on, but then I guess they allow you to just run with whatever feels natural. And there was always this mic. I remember like this like mic or this speaker that was connected to the sets that you would just hear like the director start talking and be like, hey, could you guys try this? And then you would just go back to ones and then like run it again.
hmm,
And so that was really fun. And then after those 2 seasons I worked on, I ended up booking backstage, which was kind of like a modern day fame at that time. So it was like
yeah,
based in a school of the arts, and they had different aspects of art, which was dance, vocals, so like music, and visual art. So it was this kind of like conglomerate of um, all things art and all things culturally in tune with that space. And it was really fun because like we had 2 sets running at all times whenever we were on set. So there
cool.
was always our A crew and our B crew. And so like depending on what day it was or what scene and I guess the flow of the day, we would be filming, I guess maybe like 3 to 4 episodes throughout the week, or like 4 to 5 episodes throughout the week, and we would be alternating. And depending on what
Mm.
room we're in or where we are in the school and what director we are working with, because there are 4 directors, we would be alternating between crews at like every time. So it was really interesting. Honestly, it was
Yeah.
probably one of the most fast-paced sets I ever worked on. And like I didn't work on too many. I've worked on like maybe like 6 or 7 like or 5 or 6 big projects that I would be a little bit more, I guess, involved in. And that one was like very fast paced. It was 30 episodes in 30 days that we shot for both seasons. So it was kind of just like
Whoa.
yeah. So it was, when I mean it was fast paced, it was fast paced. And like obviously Warren was one of the directors, amazing, and he was just like so fun to work with. Director X was also one of the directors. We worked with Wendy Morgan, and we worked with RT as well as Lara as a party and Mario as a party. But they just gunned it. They just gunned it, especially with like Director X and Mario. Those guys, they're just like on top of their game every time we came on set. And so it definitely was a challenge, and it definitely kept all of us on our toes while we were working. So it was very, very much so like one of the biggest learning experiences about the industry, and like about how film and TV work. And sometimes I know we have like way more time to like digest things, but with that one, it was like you better know 3 or 4 scripts in your head every week, because there's no stopping. We don't have any time to stop.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, respectfully, like as that goes, especially since you were so young, what helped you with that work ethic? Because like if honestly, if I was put in that situation at that age, I think I'd say I'd never want to do this again. But then what, like, where was your head at? How did you manage all of that?
It was definitely like pretty stressful at times, but I think that the main thing was, obviously, I guess my past experience of just being on set, and also just like understanding the ins and outs of it from 11, 12 years old when I booked my first show. And so it was kind of like that process of the experience already being there a little bit, as well as the people around working. Like they made it a very enjoyable production, and a very enjoyable set to work on. Like everybody on set just loved each other, and it was a super tight knit community within it. I feel like that was the one thing that I noticed a lot in, especially within like kid and teen television / movie or like film, like working in those kind of environments. Everybody on set, regardless of if it's cast or crew, they always have the understanding that you're working with kids. And so everyone always tries to make it very enjoyable, and everyone always tries to keep that level of composure to a point where it doesn't feel like what I mean, like anyone is giving anybody any problems. And obviously there's always going to be issues throughout the set, but a lot of the issues were never seen by the cast. It was always dealt within the crew, right? And like the actual like foundation of the production. Like I never experienced anything bad, but I've known that like sometimes there'd be choreographers and producers arguing and like about like safety and this and that and like all this stuff. So like they kind of just let the kids be kids and let us do what we do, as well as they give us our space. Like obviously with acting, it's always the hurry up and wait type environment. So whenever we weren't on set, we had our own like holding and our trailers that we could just like do what we needed to do, get ready for our scenes, chill. And that was also where I cultivated a lot of my music ability, because every break I had, especially on backstage set, I would just be in my trailer, like open door with my speaker out, like making beats and stuff, and like making everybody hear it.
That's so dope.
So it was really fun.
So now, a lot of people won't know this. Only the actors will definitely know this. But so you did. When I was working on a show, it took us a week at least per episode to film an episode. You said you did 30 episodes in 30 days. You were making music. You were learning all your lines. And now the thing that other people don't realize, especially about child actors, is you also have to do school.
Yeah.
So how did you balance that? Where did that come in?
Okay, well, honestly, like I think that because I knew, and this is like obviously this is not like the most responsible thing. I know a lot of actors, kid actors, and like child actors that stuck to everything and just like did it with ease and excelled. Me personally, with school, that was kind of the thing that was like, okay, you know what, like I don't know, like it wasn't the the Filipino side of me talking, being like, oh, I have to be a doctor or a lawyer. Like after I had grade nine, take your kid to work day, and I went to the hospital, I was kind of shook. I can't lie, I was kind of shook. My mom works in the
Mm,
operating room as a nurse,
wow.
and so when I went in there and I saw all the surgeries going on, I'm like, like, I wonder if this actually is for me, like I don't know if
Wow.
the medical field is something that I could stomach even, or I was like, freaked out after it. So even going into, a lot of these projects, I was kind of like a knucklehead. And so like I would just like do my work in tutoring, and like they would always have tutoring time, right? So I think that like within the actual union regulations of working with children, I remember the big things where you're not allowed to work a certain amount of hours until you're 16. So I think it's like you can't do overtime until you're 16, or you can't be on
I
set without a parent
loved that
until you're
about
16.
working on set, and there was a kid on set, and I was like, "Oh,
Exactly.
cool! So this is just gonna be a 8 hour day. I'm I'm okay with that."
Exactly. You know what you're bargaining for. You know what you're bargaining for, And so that was always a thing, right? So like we couldn't work more than 8 hours. It was always had to be, you always had to have some sort of a guardian on set until I think it's 16 the ages. And then I'm not sure exactly what age the the I guess the overtime regulation kicks in, where like you can start working overtime. I think it may be around the same age or 14.
Mhm.
Um, but I know that like after that, because on set of Backstage, we were definitely working overtime hours. So I'm assuming that within 14 to 16 range is the same thing. But then they also have like a mandatory tutoring time. And so whenever you're on set,
Mm.
you have to spend a certain amount of time in tutoring. But I think that the finesse with Backstage was it was filmed during the summers. So summertime, you technically didn't need
Mm.
to be tutored, unless you're doing anything that kind of I guess intertwined or like overlapped with actual school time. So that was the one thing about Backstage that was really cool. Like there was no tutoring just because it was always summertime. So we spent a month of our summer just like
Nice.
in a middle school in North York, just like banging it out. With the next step being on set, there was always like certain amount of tutor time that you had. But since I was on there for only a few episodes and didn't work as extensively on Backstage or on the next step, it was a little bit more lenient. And so like the work that I had brought in wasn't always like work that I needed to get done, just because I was in my knucklehead
Gotcha.
phase. But with the first project I ever worked on, which was called Dino Dan, I was 12 years old working on that set, and I remember being in tutoring like all the time, like all the time. And that show we
Mm.
filmed throughout the year. It wasn't like a specific time. It was just throughout the year. And I remember at least being in tutoring for an hour and a half to 3 hours every day on set, which was a lot of time. Thinking about it, it's like
Yeah.
you got to be in tutoring for a while, like in order for you to actually like for it
Yeah.
to be legal for you to work on that set. It's like, oh, it takes a lot, but smart, because kids need to learn. And I'm grateful that I had an opportunity, because I definitely would have been swamped. Like even now, like hearing the workload from my siblings, um just like kind of reminiscing on the time that I was working and doing school. It definitely was a lot. And like tutoring helped a lot. Just being able to like get all my work done, so I didn't have to stress. My mom didn't have to stress, and my teachers didn't have to yell at me every time I came back to school.
Mhm. Were you the cool kid in school because you were an actor, or did your friends at school were like, "Oh, that's whatever. You're still you. You're just Colin."
Yeah, honestly, within elementary school, it was kind of like I was just the nerdy kid at all times. So like I would like, you know what I mean? Like I guess the cool kids would be the ones that played sports, that played basketball, played football and soccer during recess and all that stuff. And like with me, like I was always like involved in dance, and I did all the like musicals at school, and I did all the performance based aspects and components of elementary school. Like that was my jam. And so like I always loved doing that kind of stuff. But when it came to like sports and doing all that, like I can't shoot hoops for my life, like at all.
Hmm.
I could play soccer a little, but honestly, like it was more so like I was always like focused on dancing, and that was my thing. But then in high school, it was like this weird like in between, because it was at the time where I was working a lot more, and a lot of the shows that I have done, people were recognizing me from them. They're like, oh my gosh, like, and like they're asking me about stuff. And so like people always knew me as the kid that worked, like the acting guy and like this, I mean, the dancer and stuff like that. But it was also a matter of like me not going to school and being at school sometimes, just because of little things like if I had like family channel stuff to do. Like I did like this like bullying tour where we did like anti-bullying. It's called Stand Up Tour. And so I did that for a bit, and like I would always just be leaving school. And so I never really like, also after school was just like a write-off for me, because I was training 24/7. I was dancing. I was doing everything I possibly could. And so I never hung around anybody like that. And so it was always this weird balance between like feeling like I didn't really know anybody, but like everybody like knew who I was. So it was this like kind of this weird like in floating in between like having friends and just like not knowing anyone at all. And it was more so like I had a lot of acquaintances in high school, and I knew a lot of people,
Mm.
but it's also a matter of like never finding like my like circle of people that I could trust, so like that I could like hang out with like that. Until
Mm.
maybe like grade 11, grade 12, where I had like my very condensed like dance group of friends, which are, my best friends throughout the entire last 2 years of school. But like, yeah, like high school was
Yeah.
definitely a different experience, especially because I went to high school in Mississauga, and Mississauga has like a predominantly like, a very big Asian Asian community down here. And I never like hung out with any Asians at my school, just because it was always like kind of
Mm.
this weird thing of this cultural thing, right? Where it was like I was definitely, I guess, like I grew up within the Western culture and like the Western understanding of life. And so, all my references in terms of like everything I grew up on, my influences have all been from, here. And so going to high school and meeting some people there, like it was always like that thing. It was like I felt like too Asian for the white kids and like too white for the Asian
Mm.
kids. So it was always like no one actually like, it didn't feel like anybody understood how to like deal with me properly. And so like people would kind of just be like, oh, like thing. And then I would more times find myself like being left out of things, or like feeling like I actually didn't have people that cared about whether I was there or not. So it
Interesting.
was a really different experience. And I'm sure like a lot of people, like a lot of Asian Canadians and Asian Americans can like feel that same, like that same experience and understand that same experience, just because I feel like it's a fairly common thing to happen. Where
Yeah.
it's like, we have kind of, I guess, for lack of better terms, have had to assimilate into a certain understanding and influence, and then that we could never kind of fully understand that aspect. And
Hmm.
one of the books I'm reading now, which I've owned for a while, but I have never like really like dug into, was Fresh Off the Boat by Eddie Wong. So Eddie Wong's memoir.
Mm.
And I've been reading, I'm like in like, 8 chapters in, and it's like the exact same experiences throughout high school. Felt like the exact same things um
Wow.
I've
Yeah.
experienced. So it definitely was like, whoa, like kind of eye-opening to be like, yeah, no, this is definitely a very like Asian Canadian, Asian American experience that you don't really get to hear, especially within, Western media. It's always like, I think now the representation is growing so vastly and so hugely and like so rapidly, which I love. And I think that it's something that I want to like fuel my music with, and like and bring that
Hmm.
aspect of representation through music. But it's definitely like um, you never really got to see what it was like to be an Asian American or Asian Canadian on TV or in a movie. It was always like,
Yeah.
very, very like one-dimensional characters in my opinion. And like I like obviously growing up, especially growing up, like the only people that I saw were Asian on TV were like cartoon characters and like Goku and Ash Ketchum, right? So
Yeah.
it's definitely like a really
Hence your look right now. It's very with the trucker hat and the hair on the
yeah.
side. That's very Ash.
Yeah, exactly, right? Exactly. That's my my idol, Ash and Bruce Lee. So it's either
Mm,
this or I'm growing my hair and full bowl cutting it out.
that's funny. Well, I also now remember you had this one picture with your haircut, and it was you with the Superman shirt, but then your
Yeah.
haircut kind of made you look like a young Tita.
Yeah, it did. It was a swoop.
That was
It's
a
the swoop.
oh man.
Oh man, that's
Now
amazing. I was wearing
this
a cardigan and
question
everything too.
this oh man, this question can lead like down a very long rabbit hole, but let's see if
Oh
we
yeah.
can have a concise answer for this so then we can start talking more about your music. But do you feel or ever feel like you grew up too fast?
Ooh, that's something that like that's something my therapist hears about a lot. But no, but honestly, like
Even that,
there's been
like for
moments
you at
where
your age
yeah.
to be in therapy, that's a very mature decision, right?
Oh, thank you.
So it's like,
It's definitely different. It's definitely different, especially because like like and now it's even a realization of myself. It's like, have I been using my therapy properly? And I was like, you know what? Maybe I haven't gone fully into it. So now I'm understanding like the actual like, you know, um, the opportunity to grow within those ways. I think that I was kind of like bullshitting a little bit and like, trying to learn things, but not really talking about anything.
hmm,
So, but this is definitely something that I've spoken about in like in the past, especially with my family and like a lot of that too, because, I guess my parents are the most concerned about that at times where it's like, do you feel like we put too much pressure on you, and you feel that um that you've grown up too fast? And honestly, I feel that there's been moments where it has felt like I've grown up a little bit too fast, and there were situations that were put in front of me that I wouldn't have expected at such a young age. In terms of, especially, I think the main thing that I felt throughout my entire childhood that has affected me as an adult today, and it's a very, I think it's a more subtle thing, a more subtle experience, but something that has definitely affected me as a person. And it's kind of one of the more foundational and like, I guess, superficial levels and layers of what it means to, feel like you've grown up too fast. But this sense of people pleasing, and you know,
hmm,
as actors, um, we're always walking into a room where we have to present ourselves in a certain way, and we have to essentially win the casting director over or win the crew over, and you have to carry through that level of composure and maturity, not just through the audition, but throughout your entire um, working experience. Whenever you're on set, like you have
yeah,
to be on time and you have to be ready. You can't come to set not knowing what you're doing. And people are going to help you and help you navigate, but there's no there's no free ticket once you've booked something, right? It's like you have to work hard. And one of the things that I learned early on in my life was never say no. So it was always
hmm,
like, do you know how to do this? Even if I had no experience doing that, it was always never say no, never say no. And I remember
yeah,
even booking backstage in the audition, my mom got pissed at me. She got pissed and she was yelling at me because she was like, why would you say this? Because in the audition, they had asked me if I did gymnastics or any type of like tricks and acrobats through dance, right? And I told them no. I was like, I don't.
yeah.
And as soon as I got out, my mom was like, why would you say that? You ruined your chance. And I'm like, oh my God.
Interesting.
And so like that was like one of the first things that like, that it was always a matter of like, okay, now we have to, you know, understand the script when you go in, what you have to say. Don't just walk in and do your scenes. just walk in and you have to say good morning, ask them about their day, you know, talk to them, you know, tell them, extend your audition as long as possible, and then you do your shit, and then you leave, and then you're like done, right? So that was one of the main things that I experienced a lot, was like this like sense of like I felt like I always had to make people happy. And now going into music and doing my own thing, and just becoming an adult in general, like beyond career shit and beyond all this stuff, like as a person, like I've noticed that my identity hasn't fully been formed and hasn't fully been found by myself, just because of all the influences I soaked in as a kid, and being not having, you know, not having the opportunity to like speak my own piece, and feeling like I always had to say yes to every single thing. And so it was this kind of like this yeah, now I'm figuring out that I have a lot more to unravel about myself and get into, because like this is now the time where I'm experiencing the most anxiety and the most stress and the most paranoia about a lot of different things. And you know, on a mental health basis, it's been definitely a different experience, especially because like, you know, now learning that like I just recently learned that like I have a lot of different mental health background within my family, and so a lot of this stuff is hereditary, and it's this new understanding that there's still a lot more work to be done within finding myself, and it's a lifelong journey, of course, but at the same time, like there's definitely been, you know, things that I haven't even solidified within myself. Like people ask me my favorite color, and I'll just say blue, just because it's the easiest color to say, right? But like, do I really think that blue is my favorite color? I'm not exactly too sure, right? And so little questions like that, like what's your favorite color, or what's your favorite food, and like all these little things that I actually never got a chance to like answer for myself, which is now my process and my journey.
So is blue your favorite color?
Honestly, I can say blue is my favorite color, but before my favorite color was green, and I would always tell people my favorite color is green, but then for some reason it just landed on blue again. But blue and green are like my favorite colors. It's hard for me to pick colors, and like that's one thing too, like within saying yes and being down for everything and just like going with the flow. Like that was always my thing. I just go with the flow, you know what I mean? Like that was my shit. But with that being said, there's like no distinct like decisions being made on my end where I'm like, no. Actually, like I want to do this. And it's like sometimes I even find it hard to communicate what I want within my relationships with my family, or my relationship in general, or like whatever the case is, right? It's like sometimes I find myself like, oh shit, like, you know, there's a lot of things that I could be avoiding, like this like weird anxiety or stress or whatever is going on. Like there's a lot of this stuff I could be avoiding if I just expressed how I actually felt. But I've always been that kid as well. Like even growing up, like, you know, I would always wake up first, and like my parents would always be like, wake them up, or my grandparents, they would always be like, yo, wake us up when you wake up. And of course, like as a kid, even like I would just kind of sit for a few hours and just like do my own thing and not wake anybody up, right? So it's always been this kind of this repeating theme within my life of like being kind of like afraid, having this fear of like actually expressing myself, which is I feel like why I gravitated towards music so much. And even within my first project, like I feel like I've grown so much from my first project, but at the same time, like that project was an extremist point of expressing myself, right? Or it was like very like balls to the wall, like just like almost like aggressive and angry, and saying a lot of things that I didn't mean, not because they were true, but because I felt that I had to say that in order to combat what it was like to be a Disney kid and all this stuff, and like, you know, like go against the grain. And I was really pushed, but even then those decisions were really pushed onto me by the people I was working with at the time. And they saw me as a Disney kid. And so they didn't want their business to be, or they didn't want me to have that same image throughout my music career, which made sense. I don't want to carry a Disney, like, you know, Disney star energy to my music at all. I wanted to be very like open to do whatever, but at the same time, like my first project was definitely like, whoa, like you maybe need to chill a little bit and really think about what you're saying, because like a lot of this isn't necessarily rooted within what you actually care about, you know? And so now
where
with the
it's
new
like
music I'm making now,
you're
it's
this
like all
Disney
about
kid, PG-13, and then it's like, oh, I need to be R-rated now so people know that I'm not just
exactly.
Disney. Mm,
Exactly. Like I need people to know that I'm not just a kid anymore, and and like that's why it's like I could only imagine what it would be like for artists like Justin Bieber or like I think the main person would be like Miley Cyrus, like slash Britney Spears, like where you would
yeah,
see this like big shift in, and I think that Miley Cyrus would be the best person to point out because like she grew up in the entertainment industry and she was an actor. She did Hannah Montana, and then once she became an adult and she wanted to do music, she felt the need to go the extreme side of the spectrum, right? And completely go R-rated and show herself and express herself in that way. And like I was watching her Joe Rogan episode, and it was really interesting to hear the parallels between, obviously that's like on the scale, it's like that's a way bigger scaling, and like she had to deal with like not just working as a kid, but the pressures of being in the spotlight as a child. Like that's what would have
yeah,
really messed me up. Like if I was in the same position as them, like I could understand how terrifying and how
yeah.
hard
Like
that can be.
if your dad was Billy Ray.
Exactly, right? So like thinking about that, I was like, oh, like, I in a way I got lucky because I'm very fortunate and very grateful because like I had the opportunity to learn all that stuff and work and get my ass kicked in those ways, but never had to do it
Mm,
under the spotlight like that. When I went outside, I was still a kid. When I went to the mall, I was still a kid. When I went to everywhere I went, I was still just a kid. And it wasn't like
yeah,
I had people following me and taking photos of me and like all these pressures of like being the perfect Disney star, right? It was definitely a way different experience, but I definitely can feel for that, and that's why it kind of helps me to understand where I am now because I understand the how fortunate I am to be able to still be building from scratch. And like, although
yeah.
music is this new process and this new journey for me, it's definitely nice to feel like I'm back at the drawing boards and I could like put in all my work and my 10,000 hours while building something rather than feeling like I have to catch up. Like I never want to play a game of catch up. And I
Yeah.
feel like that's with all of us, right? Like we don't ever want to feel like we're chasing our shit anymore, right? Like we want to feel like we have our opportunity to build and we have the chance to like go ghost and like do our thing. And then when we can hit it, we hit it, right? And that's my main thing. So
Yeah.
with music, it's like nice because like I've built myself a good foundation, I feel, but at the same time, I'm still just starting out and it's all new. And in no ways have I built anything for myself yet. Like everything is just like green pastures, which is fun.
Nice. No, that's dope. You have like unlimited choices on which way to go just based off of where you feel your mental health is at, and that's healthy. And I wish you definitely all the best in that and finding which voice you want to pick up as, your artistry grows. So that's dope.
Thank you, bro. Thank you.
So,
It's definitely been a
tell
process.
us about this new project, man.
Yeah, so I've been working with a lot of friends, and that's the beautiful thing about um I guess working in music right now, because I was just the SoundCloud kid and like doing things on my own, and I never had to like lean on my acting experience or lean on my acting networks for music. I've been working with a lot of my homies, and my homies are super talented.
Hmm.
A lot of Asian representation. So I'm working with my boy Florian. He's a Filipino mixer, producer extraordinaire from Toronto, as well as my boy Francis, who he's like a few years older than me, but he's like very much so just a mastermind. He's worked with the likes of like Drake, and he's just worked with everybody. Like he's just an amazing guy.
Hmm.
But he's a Viet producer. His name is Francis Got Heat. And then I'm working with my boy David, Chinese producer. Everyone, like honestly, everyone is Asian around me, pretty much.
That's dope.
But then
That's
also
dope.
my boy Rarely, and I've been writing with my homie Ali Sue, and we've been putting in a lot of work together, all of us. And we kind of just like have been sitting on this music for a while. And within the music industry now, I think that it would like, it's definitely a different place, especially with like, I guess everyone can see it within TikTok and within socials. Like it's essentially a playground for independent artists now. And if you're an independent artist, it doesn't matter if you're signed, it doesn't matter if you have money, it doesn't matter if you are whatever the case is, you still have an opportunity to build your platform and get your music out there and really like have it has the potential to do really well. And you know, I'm just, I guess right now trying to tap into those worlds, especially within TikTok and social media, and like getting my face recognized within those platforms. But because the music industry is in such a different, I guess, era, I'm going to be releasing singles. So my first single should be coming out in February, so on my birthday, which is like February 20th time. I'm aiming to drop in February, and now being independent, like I can kind of off whim just like drop things, which is really nice. But my plan for these singles is to start dropping in February and then drop a new song every 6 weeks and just try and see what the shelf life is on those, and like really just push myself to get on TikTok, post about it, like do the work on that aspect, because those are the things that can actually really help and boost everything that you're doing, no matter what you do. If you are an artist, or if you are a rug maker, if you're an actor, if you're a visual artist, like whatever the case is, like I think that TikTok is such a beneficial tool for anybody to be using, especially if you want to get your product or whatever you do out there, and even if it's your face and your talent. So definitely within those worlds, like going to be focusing a lot on building a presence there. But yeah, my new music should be coming out within the next month or two, and it's definitely a lot more R&B and a lot more like melodic music rather than like rapping and like doing my thing that I was kind of doing on my first project, where it's like very like ooh, in your face, this is who I am, yeah. Now it's like more so like I feel like I found my pocket a little bit more.
That's actually a good hook. Like I'm hearing you rap that. Like that should be a hook in a song coming up.
Exactly. It could be the next Kendrick sign where he's just doing whatever he's doing. So, but yeah, no, like definitely found like a little bit more of like my footing on like what I've wanted to sing about and say. And so it's a lot more music focused on like, you know, I guess playfulness, you know, and effortlessness. I guess growing up dancing, it's always the emphasis has always been on like making things look effortless and making things look easy. And so I think that before I was kind of forcing a lot of things, and I was kind of trying to come out of the gate with this really big, rambunctious, braggadocious energy. But like realistically, like I'm very shy. I'm not really like I have, you know, when within the spaces and within certain things, like I obviously like I tend to let myself go in those ways, but like generally speaking, I'm like a very shy person in public, and like that's not my style, you know. And so I feel like I found my pocket within like, okay, how do I want to make things look effortless? And like that's why I really love, like I've been watching a lot and like reading a lot about Bruce Lee and his life and his understanding of life and his philosophies, really, because he had such a beautiful way of thinking about life. And his main motto is like, be water, be like water. You know, water can take the form of a cup, water can take the form of the ocean, water can take the form of anything. And so allow yourself to be flexible. And so that's kind of like where I'm at right now. I'm not really putting an emphasis on, oh, this is who I am as a person, like this is who I am, because I know that we're different people every day, and I'm learning that we're different people every day. And so I'm allowing that to kind of fuel my creative processes, because, you know, I want to walk into a session and make it feel like a different type of session every single time. And that's the fun part about it, like writing with friends and being in like a cozy environment. I just opened up my own recording studio with my family. So we built it, me and my dad, from you know, the ground up. And that was the first time I've ever did construction and renovations and stuff like that. So it was definitely a grind, but a beautiful grind. And now that it's all open and we're set to start renting in January, it just gives me an opportunity like also get income flowing throughout my family again, because before it was
Yeah,
like,
yeah.
it's still a dance studio. Like we essentially took half of the dance studio that my mom and my dad run, and we renovated the second half of it into a recording studio. So beforehand it was a dance studio, and then we turned it into a cafe for the students on the other side, and then now because of COVID and everything, it obviously like the dance studio took a really big hit just because there couldn't be
Mm.
in the actual studio. And so now I'm in a process of, actually being able to provide for my family in those ways too, where I could bring clientele in and help the income flow for my family, which I'm really excited about. And that's why I've been in Mississauga a lot too,
Wow.
just because like I just wanted to be with the fam. Like throughout I guess the past few
Yeah.
years, I've been kind of in and out of the house. And so definitely the times I've been out of the house, I've been doing the most like just the dumbest shit. And so being back at home for the past year now, I've been home for the past year. It's definitely helped me ground myself, and I'm no longer wilding out like I was, going out and like doing excessively dumb things on the streets of Toronto.
Mm.
So
Yeah.
I'm still learning, still
Got that out of
getting
your
caught up with
system.
stuff,
No,
but
that's dope.
it's getting
Yeah.
out of my system, and I definitely feel way more grounded than I have in a long time, which is exciting. And I guess the next step for me would
Nice.
be to travel in the ways that I see you traveling and do your thing. I'm like, oh my God, it looks so beautiful. Like I literally saw you at the canyons, and I was like, bro, this guy is living life, just enjoying nature, enjoying the beauties of the world. Like that's what life is all about. Like traveling
Trying
and
to.
like
Yeah, man.
enjoying and experiencing like the foundational beauty of life. Like I think that I never wanted to be outside before. Like I always wanted to be like
Mm.
doing something like working or like playing video games and like doing my thing, like just, but never would I just even want to just step outside for 5 minutes and just look up and breathe
Yeah.
fresh air. Like that was never in
Oh.
my conscious, right? But
Mm.
now it's become something so prominent in my life, especially because of my family. Like they just been loving going biking and like doing all the outdoor activities recently, as well as my partner. She's just like in love with just being outside, and she would live outside if she could, you know what I mean? Like so
Yeah.
like I guess being in these specific environments and like enjoying those experiences just makes me like crave it way more. Like even like looking
Mm.
outside, like it's like snowing really heavily, but even just going outside in the snow feels like way better than like just like sitting inside, you know? So definitely
Mm.
want to just like get back outside again and like travel and like
No, that's fair.
beautiful fun
Yeah, because
shit.
like this world, there's just so much to see, and it's like you look outside and you see snow, but then it's like, okay, well, have you seen snow in the Rockies? Have you seen snow in the
Yeah.
Alps? Have you? And it's like there's just so many ways that you can enjoy this planet, and it's what we were given, it's what we were blessed with. So it's like, why do yourself the disservice of just staying inside and working all the time? What's the point of working if you can't
Exactly.
enjoy life, you know?
Yeah, no, absolutely,
Yeah.
absolutely. And that's one thing. Like, when I was not at home too, I was living with some family, and like, I love my family, but at the same time, like, oh, it was different because like the I guess you would it to give you more context of what the household dynamic was like. It wasn't like fratty at all, but it was definitely like a boys' house, you know? So it was like,
Mm.
like
It
hanging
was
with the
it was
fam.
a
It's just
trap, man. You lived in a
yeah,
trap.
exactly.
Saga's full of
Exactly.
traps.
Exactly, right? So it's definitely like, none of us were like, yo, you guys want to go for a walk right now? Like, no, it's like, you guys want to ball up and like play video games? Like, what do you guys want to do? You want
Yeah.
to go eat and stuff? So like that was always the main thing. But now it's like, whoa. Now it's like I feel like I want to go back to them and be like, yo, let's go for walks, let's go this and do that. And it's funny too, like especially since COVID hit, like I've noticed that even the family I wouldn't expect wanting to be outside at all. That's all they want to do too now. So it's like they want to either go fishing or they want to go snowboarding. Like my family's out snowboarding like all the
That's
time
dope.
now, which is like really, I don't know. It makes my heart happy knowing that like we're all starting to find the the beauty in what's around us, and
Yeah.
I feel like it's been long overdue where I'm like, holy shit, even though like I'm still super young and I'm like realizing and understanding all this stuff now, it's like, I'm very grateful to find this stuff within myself, like at such an early age. But at the same time, it's like it feels like,
Yeah.
oh, what was I doing? What was I doing? Like, why would I not want to enjoy all
Yeah.
this stuff? That's just around. And so yeah, like one of my like favorite activities that I started doing when I came back home was like biking with my family. And we'd always go on Lakeshore in Saga,
Nice.
like just bike along the lakeshore, and then like also just like bike through a lot of the paths that we have around our area. And like just like biking for that hour and to 2 hours was just like the most like serene thing. Listening to music, even
Yeah.
sometimes like not listening to music and just enjoying the actual like sounds of nature. Like that was also a
Yeah.
thing where I was always like had my headphones in type beat, and then like taking them out and actually being like, whoa, there's music happening
Mm.
everywhere around us. And it's different because I'm not in the city, I'm not in Toronto, like listening to like 18 different sounds happening at the same time, whether
Yeah.
it's taxi honking or construction down the street. Like it's wild. It's like just hearing birds chirp, and that's it. And like the like leaves. Like it's a trip, bro. That's why I'm like, whenever you're back down in Toronto, let me know, bro. We'll go on walks and stuff. We'll do some
Yeah, no,
real
it sounds
hipster.
good. Sounds good. That's dope. I'm down with that. One thing too that
Amazing.
like I was shocked to find out is can't remember what it's called, but it's in Saga and it's like but it's like a nature area and I was near Humber and like
Oh, that's near Sherway. I think that's like,
what
what is that? Is it like a
but whatever
conservatory or is it
that
like an
little
actual forest?
it's a forest area and but there's a walking path and it's like I was walking there and there were deer, there were bunnies all over the place, there
Yeah,
were like gophers and stuff and it was like it was just fascinating to see that much wildlife in still what I consider was relatively close to urban areas.
exactly. Yeah. I
Yeah.
think it's like I know exactly what you're talking about. It's like I don't know if it's like Loudon Heights or if it's Glendon
Hmm.
that you're at, but
Hmm.
definitely like those are like it's I've actually biked through there. I biked through there maybe once or twice, and like it is really,
Yeah.
I think that's the one thing about Toronto that like, obviously in van it's like the same thing, but it's like on the scale of it is like very
Yeah.
environmentally, like that's why I love Vancouver so much, because like you can tell like the emphasis is on keeping like the actual environment and keeping like the foundation of what they're building in, like at its forefront.
Yeah.
And so like even just stepping outside when you're in like, you know I always used to stay with my aunt and uncle, and they live right on Granville. And so like even stepping out on Granville, like the air is just different, especially because you're on the coast.
Yeah.
But like the trees and like just like everything, it just like feels so green. And I think the
Yeah.
one thing about Toronto that's like really like low key, just because obviously within the like actual dense areas and populations of the city, um, it feels obviously way more urban. But there's always these pockets of just like nature and like beauty, and like even within Riverdale area. Like Riverdale is like such a beautiful park that's like literally like dead in the like on the outskirts of downtown core. But
Downtown. Yeah.
if you keep walking through the paths, like those paths can essentially lead you to Scarborough, and like they're probably like the most
No,
like
I've
beautiful
taken it.
paths.
I used to live in Scarborough, and there was
Yeah,
a few times like I biked from Scarborough to downtown, and it's
and it's
always a
like
good idea at first because you're
yeah,
like,
and
all right,
this,
yeah, I'm gonna get my workout in, and then you're downtown, and it's like, shit, it's 8 o'clock. I gotta bike home.
I know, right? That's facts.
Uh,
Oh my gosh. But it's wild too, because like you just get to see that there's so many like little pockets of nature and earth within even like the crowdest or like like the most crowded areas of Toronto, and like whether it's like Woodbine Beach or if you go to the West End, like the West End, as soon as you hit the West End, there's just like parks on every block. And like although they're small,
yeah,
like congregated areas or whatever, like they're very much so like, what add to the charm of the West End or like of Toronto in itself, of like being able to feel like you're outside of the city when you're like just right outside of the city. Like I would never want to live
Yeah.
like downtown core, because like just knowing me, like I would not fare well there, and it would just be too many shenanigans and too much for me. But East End and
Yeah.
West End, I've always looked at like Cabbagetown to like Parkdale area. Like even like I would love living in those areas, just because it definitely still feels
Mm.
like you're in the city, but it feels way more community based and like neighborhood,
Yeah.
neighborhoody.
No, that's true. That's dope though. Man, that's real cool. But um, I also still want to have one more question about your music.
Yeah,
In regards to this project that's going on, is it just going to be music, or is there a video aspect that's going to be linked to this release process, the strategy?
definitely some visuals. So I think that the one thing I want to carry throughout my music now is capitalizing on the fact that I had so many years of experience on camera and on stage, and so the performance aspect of everything I do is going to be definitely like on 100 now. I want to like showcase not only what I could do musically, but what I can do on camera and on stage. Just because I know, like, I haven't put my 10,000 hours into music, and I'm working my way towards that. And I know that there's a lot of learning to be done in all aspects. You know what I mean? Whether it's
Mm.
like even for acting and dancing and all stuff. Like we're always going to be learning as people. We're always going to be simultaneously learning and teaching things throughout our lives, and it's a lifelong
Yeah.
journey. But I guess having the background of dance and acting, I know that I could focus more on like getting my shit together in the music, and then with dance and acting, I could capitalize on that right away, where I can like actually
Yeah,
like
because I saw that
showcase what
you
I
were
want to
doing
do
like
and build
TikTok
a new world.
videos with your music that you were releasing before. So you were essentially creating these
Exactly.
little choreographed bits to help promote your music.
Exactly.
But
Yeah,
then
and I
what I wanted
definitely
to
want to
allude
do.
to was like
Yeah,
if you were getting into the music video realm, if you're taking any experience from watching directors do their thing, like are you going to be behind the camera as well with that?
absolutely. I think that my thing for, especially within my own music videos, I definitely want to get to a place where I could direct, have my name under direction and like actually understand that. I think that even just from the past music videos that I've done, I've been very involved in the shots and like what's been going on, and like wanting to see how things evolve. And there's a
Yeah.
lot of things that go into being, into direction, and for production, like I could see myself playing a producer role as well. It would be really fun, just like, I guess, ironing out all the like the details of things, and like making sure that all the like pieces are together, and knowing where to outsource and knowing what networks to use, and like bringing people together. I love bringing people together in those ways. Um,
Yeah.
Throughout the music process, like that's always been my thing. Like, okay, what I always have like my homies come in together, and like a lot of my homies I work with, they've never worked with each other before, and so it's always a matter of like, okay, let's see what happens if we all get in together, and that's been a really cool
Yeah.
process for me. So for music videos and all that stuff, like that would be a really cool thing. But definitely, I wanted like get to a place where I could direct my own music videos, and obviously it's like I don't really feel like I need to direct every single music video myself. Like I don't think
Yeah.
that's like my MO. Like obviously I love working with people, and I love like the visions of like other creatives, and I don't want to like just like be this dude that's like, oh, I do everything myself. I write my own music. I do all this stuff myself.
Yeah.
Like that's not me, I love community, and like one of the best things about working in the arts is the sense of community that you can build with your peers and with so many talented
Yeah.
fucking people. So but direction in terms of that, like I think that I have no idea how to write a shot list. I have no idea how to write a treatment. I have no idea how to do all this stuff. But I feel like for my own projects, I would definitely want to learn those things so I could be
Mm.
involved as much as I can. Like I've always been someone that just wants to like dig my hands into every aspect, especially if it's all like my shit. Like if it's my
Yeah.
music video for my song, then like I want to be as involved, and I don't want people to ever feel like I'm like kind of like, I don't know, just one of those like, whatever type things. Like I want to be involved and I want to put in work too. And so like
Yeah.
getting myself to a place where I can like even co-direct would be really, really fun. And like learning, okay, like what do people look for in terms of like what lenses they want to use and like what shots for
Yeah.
which certain things, and like, you know what I mean? And like, I guess like that's just like a completely different it's a completely different ball game, but it seems like so much fun.
Yeah. Yeah. For sure. No, that's dope.
And plus,
Man.
I just love
So
referencing shit. Like
yeah.
even
No,
within my
yeah,
music,
it's all
everything
about
is just
little
influence.
Easter eggs, little throwbacks.
Exactly.
That's what I personally, that's what I'm into, because like,
Yeah.
especially just the other night I just watched Matrix, and
How
all
was
the
it?
little throwbacks till like, I enjoyed it.
The
I enjoyed
OGs.
it. It was fun. It
Oh,
was
that's
really
sick.
dope. Yeah. Um, Last question before I let you go, but Nilo, because originally it was Nilo C, and is this
Yeah.
just like your way to reinvent exploring who you are, where it's like, oh, I've been living my life as Colin. Now I want to explore my life backwards. Is that
Exactly. It's
like
like
where it
reverse
stems
Flash
from, or is
and
this
reverse
something that you need
Superman.
to take back to therapy?
Yeah, no, it's definitely a little bit of both. Like I think that what's fun about both names, you know, like whether it's you know, my actual name or my artist name, um I think that it's fun having those characters to play into at certain times. And like
Hmm.
definitely like my artist name comes out whenever I'm out in public having to play the game and like networking or doing the whole thing. And like it does give me a little bit more of a foundational like protection in a way, not for anybody
Hmm.
else or not for like any real reasons other than just like no, like this is part of my work, you know, and like being able to like
Yeah.
distinguish Colin from the artist, right? I always find that like when I feel like I'm Colin, it's like when I feel like when I'm just myself, like when I'm, you know, learning about myself, or when I'm even just feeling like shit, you know, or like doing whatever. And then this enigma that is Nilo or Nilo or whoever it is, like it's more so like a way of like making things more intentional with what I'm doing, you know?
Yeah.
And so it's like if I'm releasing
Yeah.
something
That's
or
a
my
really good way to
social
put it.
medias,
Yeah.
like having that name under my social medias has like given me so much more like just for myself, just like mental clarity. It really doesn't make a difference if it's my name, my real name, or my artist name, but like just like the mental clarity of like, oh wait, the intention behind these things aren't because I need to show my life and I need to, you know, this is who I am. It's actually an extension of who I am. And so like I always just treat my
Hmm.
artistry and like my artist name as like an extension of who I am. Like it's not gonna be fully 100% me, just because it's impossible to even really show people 100% me through Instagram or TikTok or even on stage or when I meet them or whatever it is. Um, but
Yeah.
realistically, like that person is still at the forefront of everything that I want to do. And like before,
Hmm.
it was definitely a matter of like, oh, like now I'm Nilo, so then I'm like I'm this person that like is like in rambunctious and this and that, and like, you know, I'm a wild boy and I'll do whatever I want. I don't give a f, like type shit. And like now it's just a matter of like no, like it's just a brand, realistically. Like
Yeah.
I treat the name as a brand, and I don't ever
Yeah.
want it to be convoluted within who I am as a person, just because I know like already like growing up in entertainment and like, you know, you've seen it for yourself too. It's easy to get lost in the sauce, you know. So I definitely want to
Yeah.
like stay grounded within who I am as a person and not be attached to my shit. And that also made me it also made making music way easier for myself as well, because um it allowed me to not hold things too personally and like hold things too closely in my work. Like
Yeah.
I honestly am not married to my music at all, and I think that's a really
Mm.
like important thing for me, just because like I don't ever want to get high off my own product, get high off my own shit, and I also don't want those things to like bite me in the ass and hinder what I'm doing. And so it's a matter of like, I just like
Mm,
making shit. I like creating. I like doing things like that, whether it's dancing and choreographing stuff, or whether it's acting, and or whether it's making music. Like I just love the creation process. And for me, the
yeah.
hard part is marketing. The hard part is
Mm,
creating this brand and pushing things. Like that is the hard part, I think,
yeah.
for everybody, because at the end of the day, if it was only a matter of making things, then we would all just be laughing. But it's a matter of like also
Yeah.
packaging and making it so that it could be consumed. And so like
Yeah.
with my work and with my name, it's more so like I just love creating. This is stuff I've made. If you guys like it, it's going to be under this brand, and this is Nilo, and I've also incorporated my own company. So like it's going to be under, this is Wrongs and Rights, and this is this and that. And like having those housing units for everything just allows me to
Yeah.
like be like, okay, my job is done. Now I can like chill and like
Yeah.
actually like, you know, just focus on what is actually important, which is not
Yeah.
amassing to millions of streams and making millions of dollars, but it's just giving myself the freedom of being able to do what I love and do it consistently,
Yeah.
and live off of that, you know, and provide for my family off of that. So that's always my main thing. It's like I just want to like make cool shit and like make things
Yeah.
I think is cool, because obviously it's all subjective anyway, but make things I think are really cool and share them with the world. And if that can, you know, help me do the things and feel the things that I want to do in the future, then I'll just continue to do that. But like
Yeah.
never holding on to it too tightly, being like, oh, this is the best song in the world. Like I'm the best artist in the world. Like, I don't care about being the best anymore. I think that was a very like dancing and acting made me feel like, okay, I want to be the best dancer. I want to be the best
Yeah.
actor. I want to be this, like now, like that really doesn't like appeal to me anymore. And like, it's just like, now it's
Mm,
like, I just want to have fun doing it and like love what I do.
yeah.
So if I love it, then it's like, all right, cool. We're good.
Jeez, man, that's deep. And it's like it still blows my mind that like you're as young as you are, and then you have such a broad scope of life, and it's beautiful, man, and I'm so happy to see it. So thanks for sharing that.
Thank you, bro. Thank you for chatting and listening to me ramble. I
Yeah, no, that's
really,
cool.
I
That's
really
cool.
talk this much, so it's fun. It's fun to talk.
Yeah, no, for sure. And like if you have any future projects, let me know and we'll bring it right back and we'll definitely dig into those too. But dope. Thank you so much for coming out,
Absolutely.
man.
Thank you so much for
Well,
having me. It was such a
everybody,
pleasure, bro.
yeah, no, Colin, also known as Nilo, all the links will be down below. Don't forget to hit subscribe and like for both of our things. But this is the 2 Degrees podcast brought to you by the Play On Foundation. I'm Javi. Hope you enjoyed it. Catch you on the next one.